but I think we'll get rolling. We got a lot to cover tonight, so want to welcome you all to this mini pets session. Thanks for making the time to be here, and for those of you who will be watching this recorded, thank you for taking the time to view it. I'm Ed Merrick. I'll be serving as your district governor next year, and with me on the group here is we get the PowerPoint up and coming. Here we go. Is Kenny Closter, who's the district governor nominee. He'll be your district governor-elect next year. PDG, past district governor Carol Weigel, has been our training chair.
I'm the one on the left, by the way.
Pardon?
I'm the one on the left in that picture, just so you know.
Kyle Haugen, our also a past district governor, and is the District Rotary International Foundation team lead, will be joining us a little bit later. Sean Berry is here, who is our district public image team lead, and Steve Griffith, who will become the district membership team lead in the next year. And our two special guests who have already joined us, John Hannes and Andres Perez, are part of the Rotary International staff, and they've come to help us out this evening. And of course, Kathy Hewitt handling the Zoom board. It's the person behind the curtain. Don't look there. This training, won't give you the full rich experience of an NC Pets, but we'll attempt to provide you with the links and connections to the resources you'll need as president. And, it doesn't need to be said, but we are facing challenges we've never faced before, and it's vital to come together to support each other through this time. In the invitational email you received for this training, we had recommended that you go to the Learning Center, Rotary's Learning Center, and take the President Basics course. I trust you've done that, or if you're still working through it, do complete it. And if you haven't started it, go ahead and do it. You'll be glad you did. There's a lot of good information in there. In addition to the President's course, there's a lot of other great courses online there, and for your team. For leadership roles in membership, foundation, PI, secretary, treasurer, and as well as another wide variety of topics to build stronger, more vibrant clubs. We passed along a PDF that the Learning Center provided that has direct links to the different trainings. So instead of having to navigate through to find your way to the class you want, you can click right on that link. It'll take you there. You'll have to sign in with your email and your Rotary password for the RI website, but it'll take you right to the course and you'll be set to go. Also, just mention that next week we have the district training assemblies. So Tuesday night is membership, Wednesday is foundation, and Thursday will be PI. So get your team leads in your clubs signed up for those. We've been sending out some emails and that already. There'll be some good information and connecting with more resources directly for them. So do that. Also know that other Rotarians, your fellow president-elects, each of you that are here on the call this evening, and those that attended NC Pets, your past presidents, your AG and district leadership, all resources for you as well as John and Andre, who will be introducing a little bit later. We have a lot to cover. We ask you to remain muted until we open it up for questions, or you can submit your questions in the chat feature and we'll get started. So this first slide you're seeing here, I think you've seen this before undoubtedly, but I think it's always good to review what we're trying to accomplish. Reviewing the direction and the goals we're working towards always helps to keep the focus where it should be. So together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. I really like that vision statement. And the next slide kind of shows the why, the hows of what we're trying to accomplish, which I think are equally important. Increasing our impact, eradicating polio. Now we're leveraging that legacy of eradicating polio. We're now using that network for COVID-19. I think you may have seen some of the emails on that that we've circulated through the district, but also focusing on other programs and offerings that we have. Also working to improve our ability to improve and measure our impact and the the difference we're making in the world. And that's something that I've asked John and Andres to talk a little bit about in helping you get that information of what impact your club is making to Rotary. Next one, expanding our reach, growing and diversifying our membership and participation, creating new channels. Go back one, Kathy. Thank you. Increasing Rotary's openness, appeal, building awareness of our impact and brand. Enhancing, the next one, enhancing, I'm sorry, not the next one for you, Kathy. I see where I screwed up. Enhancing participant engagement is the third one. Supporting clubs to better engage their members, develop more participant-centered approaches to deliver the value, the reasons why people join Rotary, making sure we're delivering on those promises. And finally, increasing our ability to adapt, building a culture of research, innovation, and willingness to take risks. I don't know how many of you were on the celebration night last Friday night, the special night of connecting, when John Huco, the General Secretary of Rotary, was speaking. But he made it very clear that there is no Rotary police, and bending the rules these days is perfectly fine if it gets the job done. And in terms of increasing our ability to adapt, COVID-19 is certainly helping us reaching this goal. As we're finding with Zoom meetings and working with different ways of celebrating somebody's birthday, for example. Next slide, Kathy. So in addition to those, the RI strategic plan and the strategic actions, we've got President-elect Holger's 4 key messages. And this was sent out in an email to you in more detail, but we're working to create new innovative club models. We had a great breakout at NC Pets that I and the other DGEs that attended the International Assembly art training in San Diego got to be part of. And we actually had the person who presented it at San Diego help us present it to the group in Rochester. It was really well received. It really gives you an opportunity with these new club models that we have to really play around with them and understand them a little bit better. We were hoping to offer this at the district conference of clubs, but that got canceled. It's a possibility if we're able to meet again later on that we'll put it into the One Rotary Summit or maybe into midterm into 2021, just seeing how this COVID works with us. And we may even look at trying to adapt it somehow to see if we can't offer something like this online. Every club should host at least one strategic meeting each year. If your club has not been part of visioning, have done a visioning breakout, you may want to consider that as well. I know it certainly jump-started my club a few years back and has really made a difference in energizing it. And we've been growing as a result. Selecting new members carefully. I think this is really key. When I've met with some prospective members here lately, what I've been asking them is, what difference do you want to make in the world? And then having them invite Rotary to be part of that. In other words, we'll join them in what they want to make a difference with. So it really fulfills what motivates them versus getting into kind of a set pattern, a set rut. This is the way we're doing it. Thinking a little bit differently about that, and I think Steve will talk a little bit about that a little later on. And then finally, of course, the promise we made to the children of the world is end polio now. And that's the important one we do need to accomplish and we do need to finish. If we go to the next slide, Kathy, we'll talk a little bit about our district strategic plan. And we'll start with our core values of fun, service, integrity, leadership, inclusion, innovation, which are very similar to Rotary International's, oddly enough, of fellowship, leadership, integrity, diversity, and service. We had quite the argument when we were putting this together whether service belonged on top or fun belonged on top, and you can see what won that argument. Next slide, Kathy. The purpose for the district, the only reason we're here is to help our clubs thrive. That's the number one issue. In addition to that, I mean, that's the big one, because Rotary doesn't happen at the district level. It doesn't happen at RI's level or the zone. It happens in the clubs. You are where Rotary is actually happening, where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. In addition, promoting the Rotary Foundation, both in terms of giving to grow it and using it through the programs to connect clubs and members with the broader Rotary world, to always promote a positive public image of Rotary, and to provide leadership development. This next slide now, we emailed out an addendum to the strategic plan with the protocols and guidelines on communications, which is the latest addition to the strategic plan we had. We don't have time to review the whole body there, but I did want to spend a little bit of time on communications among the clubs. And Kathy, here's where we could probably, throw it out to the gallery view, and we can have a little interaction with each other. So this deals with different modes of communication, both within your own club as well as among other clubs, and lists a number of different ideas along that: emails, surveys to get feedback, something that Steve and membership will certainly be advocating for. And we were talking a little bit earlier about club connections via Zoom today. How many clubs here are meeting virtually currently? Raise your hand. You guys aren't in a club, huh? Most everybody is. That's good to see. And how is it going? Anybody? Is it working pretty well? I got a thumbs up from Northfield. Thumbs up from, don't tell me, Rice Lake. Okay. I've actually done a couple of presentations on Zoom now using a PowerPoint, and we're doing one. Bruce Moreland out of the Northfield Club. I'm pointing over here because Vicky's there, but she's probably over there on your screen. And I have been doing a presentation on Better Angels and how that organization works and how it ties in with the Rotary four-way test and our integrity and creating a better communication among people. And that's been working pretty well. Has anybody done combined meetings with other clubs? I'm sorry, you are Dan. Oh, Prior Lake, yeah. I was just going to mention the Prior Lake and Blaneham Lake did a joint club meeting presentation. We had a speaker from the Mayo Clinic and from the U of M talking about the testing protocols and what they're pulling together to test for COVID-19 out in the general public. It was pretty interesting. I know Lakeville is planning one on May 28th, and I won't say what it's about, but they're looking at inviting in other clubs to that one. It should be, it's a really good speaker, so.
You can mention it.
I didn't want to steal anybody's thunder.
No, you're fine.
It's Michael Angelo Caruso will be speaking, and he always does a great job, has a lot of great insight into Rotary and public speaking and things of that nature. So I know I'll be talking, Peters and my club will be talking about maybe canceling our normal meeting and having everybody go join in with the Lakeville Club that day. It should.
How do you get an invitation?
Pardon?
How do you get an invitation to that meeting?
They will probably be inviting clubs in.
And I also have it on the district website calendar. So if you want to go to the calendar, you can find it on that.
What morning is that?
Thursday, May 28th.
A lot of clubs have been. I know we've done this. St. Paul, number 10, has done it. Lakeville apparently is doing it. A number of, and who was the other one I got into today? New Brighton, Moundsview, I think. No, I'm not sure if they're on the calendar, but if you go to the district website and click on the calendar, it'll pull it up, and clubs are putting their activities on there. You can click on there. It'll usually give you a link right into the meeting. I know Kenny and Closter joined us a couple weeks back at one of our meetings by doing exactly that. I had him do that to make sure it worked. So
yeah, and if anyone, this is Kenny from Mankato, if anyone would like to try and just test that out, feel free to go to the district website. The Mankato meeting is noon tomorrow. The hyperlink is right there. Just click on it a little bit early. They'll send out the invitation, and you'll be good to go. So give it a try.
Okay. Anybody else doing anything else with the Zoom meetings with your clubs?
One of the things that I like that Northfield is doing, because we have over 60 people coming on, Bruce facilitates like Kathy does here, and he puts us into a small meeting. So it's almost like you're sitting at the table, visiting with the people there, rather than trying to visit with, 60 people. And I think I would suggest that just as people are coming on, he throws us into a small group.
That's interesting, because somebody being in control of that, as they come in, you can throw them into different rooms. So, if you've got one of those clubs where people always sit at the same table and don't mix with other people, here's a great way to mix them up virtually. I love that, Vicki. Great idea. You'll actually get to experience that a little bit later in one section we're going to do a little bit later. We'll break you up into 3 groups to talk a little bit about the club health check in a bit. So we're going to get to do that. The one thing I do like about the virtual Zoom meetings is the happy hours, because you can drink whatever you want and as much as you want at it, and you don't have to worry about driving anywhere. So that's really been a bonus as well. Not that I'm advocating imbibing too much, but some days it does serve a purpose. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Carol, and she's going to take over the next section here. So Carol and Kathy, if you want to go back to the screens.
Okay, all right. Now I'm unmuted. You can hear me? I take it?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So Kathy, the next slide. Nope, next one beyond that. The fork in the road one. There we go. All right. Now, there's long ago, a very famous baseball player named Yogi Berra, who he wanted to say something intelligent, and he used to get it screwed up all the time. And one of the things he said is, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. Anyway, the idea here is that when you come to the fork in the road, you have a couple of options. And as the slides suggest to you here, the one option that we've been using for 100 years is that's the way we've always done it. And so if you want to make change, it sometimes is difficult to do that. One option then is that's the way we've always done it, or 2, on the other side of that same fork in the road, is let's be creative and innovative. And that's really what I want to talk about tonight in my slot here. That when you talk about managing change, and all of us are sort of nervous about doing that, about doing something brand new. And on the other hand, sometimes when we do that, it's much more fun, and it gives people a different opportunity to provide some input to what's happening in your club. One of the things that's extremely important, I think, is that we know and we honor the fact that every one of our clubs has some traditions, and they are good things to have, as well as knowing that every one of our clubs has its own personal culture. That's a good thing to have. And so we're not trying to suggest that we should just destroy all of that and start all over again with something brand new and unfamiliar to everybody, which is discombobulating for most people, I think. On the other hand, if we have an opportunity to do something new, we should do that. If you think for a minute, how would you like it if you had exactly the same dinner every night of the week? Most of us wouldn't, at least one different thing on the plate, or one different thing for dessert or something else. But in terms of trying something new, one of the things that we'd suggest is you take a survey of your members in the club, asking them things like, and as Ed mentioned, later on, you're going to hear some things about the club health check. And there's lots of good ideas in there, so you get a chance to do something about that. But if you ask just simple questions, even things like, what do you most appreciate about your club, or in your case, if you're sending that out, what do you appreciate about our club meetings, our projects, etc.? What suggestions do you have for change? lots of times we end up having comments made after the meeting is over with. In other words, the second meeting out in the hall, as opposed to raising your hand and saying, "Could we try something different?" What suggestions do you have for change? What other projects or community activities might you suggest? What are they like? What would they like to accomplish as a club next year? Use the goals that you're planning to use, or setting anyway, as a base for this. And that's another thing that we'll talk about too. But a great start, and Ed has already mentioned this, would be to have a club visioning session. That's Dave Schaefer and his team do the club visioning, and it's a really neat project. They spend several hours with the club during an evening, or I suppose whenever it is that you want to have that. But the club members are there, and they help them understand or ask them questions and say, like I just did, what suggestions do you have for change? What are you doing right now? How is that working for you? Are there things that you could do differently? Does your club have a particular focus that they have in your community? Many people do. Many people know the Rochester Rotary clubs, we are three, that they know us because we do this basketball tournament between Christmas and New Year's every year that's extremely looked after. I mean, the kids come from all over the state, come down here, and their kids and their parents, of course. So that's something that everybody understands. That's a Rotary thing, okay? So that's important too. But the club visioning allows Dave and his team, and they're very practiced at this, to ask the questions and do just the general things. Okay, how are you feeling about this? What else would you might want to do? And here, if we look at the quote from Paul Harris, our esteemed founder, which says, as soon as I can find my thing here, there we go. It's well that there is nothing in Rotary so sacred that it cannot be set aside in favor of things better. This is an experimental age, and it certainly is, in a changing world, and all things which are worthwhile and progressive are the cumulative effects of preceding successes and failures. And that's important too. Not everything you do or everything any one of us does is always a howling success. Sometimes it isn't. When it isn't, then we need to sit back and say, what went wrong here? What might we have done differently? And then proceed from there. So it's a question, as he said, of just past experience, and that's important too. So what he said in 1905 is equally relevant today, and certainly so as we look at, as Ed has suggested a couple of times, where we are in our world today with the COVID virus and what that has meant for all of us in essentially in every one of our parts of our lives. The other thing, and I think Ed mentioned this too, is do a club. We used to call these club assembly. I don't know if we still call them that or not. The idea is that you have at least one meeting every so often. I would suggest either like every 6 months, where instead of having a speaker, the club president leads the meeting, and we talk about what is the club doing. And part of that is, where are we with the goals that we have set, or that you will set here, both in things like membership, in terms of public image, looking at Rotary Foundation. All of those are important, but giving people the idea of saying, if we set the goals at the beginning of our Rotary year, which begins July 1, then we need to be looking at them throughout the year to find out, how are we doing with that? If you the idea of saying, this is what I want to do, I'm gonna run a, I'm not, seriously, this is an illustration, I'm gonna run a 5K marathon. Okay, so if I did that and I made all 5K, great. If I didn't, then what did I do that I might be able to change for next time I want to do that? But it keeps your members involved, and that's incredibly important. And I know many of you have heard me say this before, but it's the old adage is, if I tell you, you'll forget. If I show you, you'll remember. If I involve you, you'll understand. And that's critically important when we come to thinking about new members in our club. If we have a new member and we introduce them, and they sit with somebody one week and somebody different another week, but nobody else pays any attention to them, they're not going to be around very long. If you engage them in something, if you ask them to be a part of a team, ask them what are some of the things that they do that they could share with the club, etc., then they feel a part of what it is, and that's extremely important. So, and part of that, of course, is that there is always going to be a push for membership, but the issue is that declining membership is not a problem. It's essentially a symptom. And that means that if people are not are dropping out of the club because it isn't meeting what their needs are, and the opportunity to do a survey gives you the opportunity then to ask them what their needs are and what they wish they had, and then be able to make those kinds of changes. So, are there any questions that anybody has about any of the things that are on this slide in terms of meeting and leading and managing change? It is, the job of a president of the club is an honor, and it's also one filled with responsibilities. And it's also, and as our strategic plan suggests, it's also fun. And you get to make a difference in lots of people's lives, and that's even better. So I think that covers the ones that I'm supposed to do. So we can move on from there to Kenny.
Excellent, Carol. Thank you very much for that. In this section now, leading and managing change, we're really going to try and help identify what is working and what might need some attention within your clubs. You're going to want to pay particular attention to this and be able to use it with your boards. And we'll give you a little taste of this by focusing on one area for each of you this evening. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break into 3 rooms with other participants, and we're going to discuss your clubs, share ideas and comments. And then when we return to the main room, we're going to ask to share a few of those ideas and comments. So Kathy, you have control, and I think we're going to get split up here. We're going to get beamed to other rooms, so hopefully we all end up there.
So we're all back together. So Kenny, take it away.
Sure. So are we going to be putting people into other rooms, or was that just the taste of what we wanted to give them?
Yeah.
That was the taste. Gotcha. All right.
That was the taste.
Perfect. So, what we wanted to do there was just give you an idea of the club experience. There was one group that went to your club experience. There was another group that went to service and socials, and there was another group that went to and was speaking on membership. And so we just wanted to give you a little idea of what is out there and what is available. Does anybody want to share what went on in their rooms?
That was
volunteers?
Way too fast, Kenny.
Yes. But that's just, again, just a taste. So, if you want to, have something like this in your club, even though we all have to continue to meet virtually, this is something that is available.
Well, hey, I'll speak for our group. We discussed club experience, and overall, it sounds like obviously everything's kind of, who knows what the new world's got for us. An agreement that both a Zoom option and live options now can be a regular inclusion in the whole process. Going forward, not just an either or, but can be both, so that you could actually reach out to additional people beyond your group. That was one thing. Also, everyone struggles with people sitting in the same places when in meetings. Hey, once we have face-to-face again, some people instituted some small fines or fees to keep people to mix it up, just to create an inviting atmosphere. And I think really that was about it. So just everyone is conscious of the club environment, having a welcoming environment to new people. So keeping it from becoming static, everyone's in the same places, that sort of thing. And also recognition that, well, for all of us, we really don't know what it's going to look like exactly going forward, but it's going forward anyhow, right?
Right. Well, Peter, thank you very much. You must be looking at my notes here, because that's one. It's one thing I've been encouraging as I've gone to different clubs in the district, and it's in this time, it's certainly cut down on my travel time. So I've been trying to make a club in the morning, and if I can make one at noon, I try to do that as well. But one thing I've been thanking clubs for doing is continuing to meet in this virtual world. But another thing I'm encouraging them to do is, as they're doing their Zoom meetings now, to record the meetings and then go ahead and post a link to their website. And I think once we're able to get back and start meeting face-to-face again, which hopefully will be sooner rather than later, but to continue to record the Zoom meetings, continue to do the Zoom meetings, because it's going to help some of those people that, for whatever reason, they can't get out of the office, they can't make it, for whatever reason, or maybe it's a snowbird that has gone south for the winter and they want to be able to stay tied into the club and into the community. Continue to do that. Mankato, we have our meetings noon on Wednesdays. Well, sometimes it's tough to, we get tied up at the office, something happens, there's another priority that, pops up. But if it's been recorded, I can go Wednesday night or I can go Thursday morning and I can watch the recording. So would encourage all your clubs to, do the Zooms now, record them, but then continue to do them after we get back face to face. The other thing I'll add too is I'd really like to see clubs add these meetings to the district calendar. That way, if you're available on a Monday morning, if you're available on a Wednesday at 4 or 4:30, there's the web club, the e-club that we have in our district that is cultural enthusiasts. And I was able to go on and attend one of their meetings. And what a fun meeting. We had literally Rotarians from Washington, D.C., Colorado, as well as quite a number here within our own district. So it gives you an opportunity to go out and visit some of those other clubs, and it's a real easy thing to do. So, Peter, thanks again for that. Anyone else that cares to share? Got a real bashful group here. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll move on, but hopefully it was a good experience getting split out like that. We'll move on, Kathy, if we want to go back to the slide deck here. Thank you. And so we'll move on here to the awards program, the hopefully temporary new normal. And so it's continuing with online meetings, having discussions about fundraisers. Some of those are going to look quite different now in this world. If you're looking for speakers, on the district website, there is a spot for a speakers bureau. Projects will also look a little bit different, but I would encourage you to join with other Rotary clubs and any other service organizations. So moving on to, and Kathy, you're good right where you're at there, the awards program. So as president-elects now, you can find the brochures that deal with the awards on the district website for the district awards, and on the Rotary International website for the Presidential Rotary Citation Award. So if you're becoming a vibrant, thriving club, these are the goalposts to achieve that end. So one suggestion I will give you, and this is a do as I say, not as I did when I was a club president, I tried to shoulder the entire load myself. Big mistake. Don't do it. Take my word for it. What you want to do is assign a club champion to handle the awards. Find somebody within your club that has some drive. They want to win. They want to achieve. And that's the person that you want to assign the awards program. Have them track how you're doing. But Ed, I think those were those sent out in an email?
No.
They were not. Okay. So, but if you go onto the district website, it's the 2019, 2020 is what's on there right now. Club awards and district governor citation. And then on the Rotary International website, it's the presidential theme and Rotary citation. So search those out. Again, if you have questions, please reach out. We'll be more than happy to help out. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our special guests from Rotary International, John and Andres, if you want to take it away.
Perfect. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for having us, guys. It's been great kind of sitting in and seeing from your perspectives everything that you're learning, and it's great to be here to support you guys. Before we continue to aid you in more information about Rotary Club Central, I want to give you guys a little bit more information about who John and who we are and who we are to you. So we are based in the Evanston, Illinois office. We're part of a 530-ish, maybe a little more, maybe a little less staff. And we are all managed by our general secretary that some of you might have seen on Friday, John Hugo. Now, on top of us here in Evanston, we are also based all around the world, as you guys know this. But we have, as you can see on the board here, quite a few different offices, and this will be an additional 200 staff members that will help basically everywhere. So if you're looking for help somewhere in the world, you're going to find someone to help you there. Now, specifically, who John and I are representing is the club and district support team. So I want to give a little bit more information about myself. I'm Andres, and I'm going to have my information here for a little bit. Don't worry, we'll send it to you guys after the end of this, so that way you don't have to jot anything down in a rush or anything. So I started in the support center, actually, and then in this January, I transferred over to the club and district team. So while I'm a little new to the role, I'm not new at all to Rotary, so it's been great learning about just this side of things. It's been great meeting more people and getting connected. And I will actually let John introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm John Hannes, and I do want to say, it's been such a treat to have Andres join our team. It's been a little funny because he joined us in January, and about a week later, I was like, well, I'm off to the International Assembly to help out there. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And then I got back home and was like, hey, I'm back home. Let's start learning how to do stuff. And then it was COVID-19 time, so we'll just work from home and continue to meet on Zoom. So we've been through a lot of Zoom meetings ourselves. As mentioned, I'm John Hannes. I'm a senior officer with Club and District Support. I started at Rotary in November of 2010, so I'm actually coming up on my 10th anniversary. And I've been with Club and District Support the entire time, and we'll kind of get into some of the details of what we do, and it's really the reason why I've stayed with this team and have enjoyed working with all of you in this kind of support.
Yeah, so continue on that, kind of the more core things of what we handle, as you can see on the screen here, are policy, resources, admin help, and online tools. So to give a little bit more background on that, policy, we kind of help so you guys are not so bogged down by the language of things. So if the council comes to an understanding of how to change some rules, you guys don't have to try to understand everything all at once. We will do that, and then we'll come to you with the information. That way it's more digestible. When it comes to resources, this can be something like a PDF to help you understand something, or it can be connections to other people. While we handle the certain sides of certain things, there might be other teams in our offices that might know more or can be able to help, and it's just fun and easy to connect you to, so that way you guys have that resource. When it comes to admin help, let's say a club is interested in creating a satellite club, or the district wants to come up with a new just Rotary Club in itself. We can help make sure that everything is all copacetic and we have a good club running. And last but not least, we have the online tools. So we kind of help with My Rotary, just so that way you can understand what you'll be doing in your roles. And one of the big things that we'll do is go on to Rotary Club Central. So when we use Rotary Club Central, it's a good hub for all these things that you'll be using. You can use this to set your own goals, and then you'll try to use this to continue tracking where you're at, where you'll be going, and how your projects are doing. I am hoping to give you guys some time near the end if you guys have any questions. So if not, feel free to contact John and I later. But I will then let John create, through magic, the screen to show you guys how this tool will work.
Yeah, thanks so much. And we're going to kind of walk through the process of getting to Rotary Club Central, setting some goals, and then we'll talk a little bit about different things to think about while you're in the tool. As Andre said, if we have the time available, we'd love to answer some questions in an open forum type setting. We're both going to hang out after this part of the presentation because I talk a lot. And so I want to be sure that we do get an opportunity to address questions. You can also put stuff in the chat box while I'm talking, and then we can try to address those along the way. But the main thing is that in order to utilize Rotary Club Central, which is our online tracking for goals and then achievements of those goals, you need to be a club officer. And you need to be identified as one for your club for the upcoming Rotary year. Hopefully by this point it's already happened, but if you log on to your My Rotary account and then notice that you don't have some of the access available, let us know, and then we can kind of do a little bit of research and see what's going on. Maybe there's a different email address that we've got on hand, or maybe you just hadn't been identified in the role properly. We can help clarify that, or work with your club secretary to help clarify that as well. After logging into My Rotary, and this is my own account, so I'll just show you that there are a couple of different ways to get to Rotary Club Central. To be sure that you've got access, you'll see something here called the My Club Snapshot.
Oh, sorry, John. It looks like the slideshow is still
Still showing? Okay, hold on here. Thanks for breaking in. Can you see what's going on here? Hold on. I might be young, but I'm not that young. I'm figuring out how to do the stop share. We're just going to stop and we're going to share this thing here. Technology. All right, you should be able to see my browser. Okay, cool. That's how you know this is live. On My Rotary's landing page, you should be able to see the club snapshot, and it'll identify the club that you belong to, where you meet, who your president is, how many members you've got, and so on. And then there is a link here to view club goals. But if you're utilizing the website in any other way, my preferred path to come in is here under this Manage section. Under the Club and District Administration heading, down to the bottom is Rotary Club Central. And when you click on it, it'll either open up a new window or a new tab. It really depends on your browser settings. And then you'll be presented with a dashboard of data. And so this dashboard will show you things like membership trends, gender trends as well. You've got age, as long as people have been reporting that in their profiles, and then your projects and annual fund contributions. Now, each of these has sort of a somewhat interactive quality. You can see where you started on July 1st. This is our membership trend. Gender trends, you can kind of see that my club has more women than we do men in the club. And that's just basic views. But to get into certain things, to start adjusting some of this information or to start really utilizing it, there's an area here on the left-hand side that helps you navigate through the tool. If you've been a president before and you've been in a previous version of Rotary Club Central, you might remember that it was kind of overwhelmed with options or overwhelmed with goals. We've really tried to address that in this current version after an update of a couple of years ago. To look at goals, we'll take a look at the Goal Center here, and then the main field will refresh. One thing before I do move on to sort of utilizing this, if you don't happen to see this left-hand navigation or you're using a mobile device, this little 3 dashes here helps hide or adjust that menu setting. Someone once referred to it as a hamburger in a meeting that I was in, and I will never not call it a hamburger. So this hamburger basically brings up your menu. In this tool, the way that it currently is set is that it's always going to go to the current Rotary year and present you with the goals and the achievements for the current year. And since a lot of you are incoming officers, one of the first steps that you'll want to do is make sure that you utilize the selector tool that will page you forward to the proper Rotary year. You'll see the screen refresh. You'll see some slight animation there. And then one big identifier to make sure that you are an active officer for this particular Rotary year, or that you've been recorded properly, is that this edit bar should appear for you. If this edit button doesn't show up for you, then it means we have you coded as an entry-level Rotarian, and then that's something that we have to adjust. Every single club member in your club has the ability to log into My Rotary, head to Club Central, and start taking a look at the goals and the progress toward those goals. They just can't edit. There are 6 positions in a club who have the capability of editing. That's the president, the secretary, the treasurer, foundation chair, the membership chair, and then if your club has an executive secretary, that position can as well. As Kenny very kindly said earlier, it's going to feel like your responsibility to come in and edit all these goals. And it's going to feel like your responsibility as the president to make sure that people are staying on task and that you're achieving these goals and that you're updating these. It's not just your responsibility. It really is any club members, but those 6 key positions would have the ability to help track some of this information. So it's taking a little bit off of your plate. Each of those 6 members can also delegate their online access to one other club member in the club, meaning there are actually potentially 12 people that could help come in and maintain this tool. And we'll talk about some of those benefits in just a minute, but I'm going to kind of walk through some of the information that we see here. Now, I should also say that this is a live environment. This is for my own Rotary Club. My club president-elect already has like a plan to go in and set this as a club. So I'm going to walk us up to the point of hitting save, and then I'm going to hit cancel because I do not want to freak them out. And if I accidentally hit save, somebody please speak up because I'll go in and fix it later. But in this section, we wanted to present each officer, really, or each club member an opportunity to take a look at some key information, namely the goal itself, the achievement, and then also some historical information. So here, underneath each of these individual goals is an opportunity to expand and then see the last 5 years worth of data. This hopefully will help make an informed goal as you continue to move forward. Now it's going to look like there's a lot of info here. Really what this is that we've got the hard data here, just the plain old numbers. And then on the left-hand side, the same information as a pretty picture. Some people like to look at numbers, some like to look at pictures. We're giving you both. And that's true for every single goal that's available. Now, unlike a previous version of this tool and unlike a paper form that it actually replaced, we decided that we wanted to make sure that this was an a la carte type of tool. So after you've logged on and after you've hit edit, the screen will change and you can see that our club had to actively come in, and your club will too, actively go into the tool and select the goals that it wants to do for the next year. This particular goal, new member sponsorship, didn't seem to be a key goal for our club, and so it was left unselected. In fact, I can't even set a goal because it hasn't been identified as one that we're doing. Now, if we wanted to come in and set this as a goal, we would just click select a goal. It activates that box, and then you can see that I can actually come in here and make an entry. Again, I'm not going to save that just because I don't want someone to have a rude email to me later. There are about 72 or so goals that are found in this tool. You don't have to set all of them. Set as many as you feel comfortable doing as a club. They're broken up into different categories like members and engagement, Rotary Foundation giving. Service has probably the smallest list available because we're just trying to see how many service projects you think you'll do during the course of the year. Young leaders, public image, or if you do want to see all of them, this all button will lead you to that space. Now there are different goals in this tool that will either provide you with an update on its achievement, or there will be some that you have to come in and mark your own achievements. And I'll show an example of that here. Club membership is based off of what gets entered into our records for any new member or any termination that your club experiences during the course of the year. So we, as an organization, are able to report that goal achievement back to you. So you can see that my club has set a goal of 41 members next year. As we go through the year, this ticker will it'll adjust on its own. Service participation, though, is so specific to our club that we want to have 20 unique individuals in our club, at least half of our club, participating in at least one service activity during the course of the year. Well, that's something that Rotary can't really identify. We can't identify the unique individuals. We could just sort of see, like, overall, you reported that 20 people did this project, 14 did the other project, but that doesn't say that Andres did 4 and John did 3. That's something that then means that you have to come in and then mark the achievement on your own. And that just takes place at the end of the year. You can do this incrementally, but really at the end of the year. And it just involves you clicking into the space and then hitting save once the activity is done. And that's true for a good number of these. Yes, I'm sure I want to cancel. That's true of a number of different things. Foundation giving, we can report back to you your activity here. Service is something that you'll report on your own, and I'll show that tool in just a second, and so on. One difference, if anybody is carrying over as a club officer from this year to the new Rotary year, is that you'll see that the Rotary Citation tab has disappeared. I'll flip back a page just so you can see. It's right here, and then it's moving forward. The Rotary Citation in its current form for the 1920 and then previous Rotary years involved you receiving a brochure. It listed off different goals in different categories, and from there you had to achieve specific things. And while a number of them could remain the same from year to year, there were always 1 or 2 or maybe 3 goals that were specific to the president at the time, and we couldn't find a place to house it. So we put its own special tab in Rotary Club Central. For the new Rotary year, all reporting and all activities and actually all the goals are going to be housed in Club Central, in the various categories that they belong to. And as a club, you'll actually have the ability to go in and select which of those goals you'd like to set. And I believe the number is 25. And of those 25, if you can achieve 13 of them, any 13 across any category, you then earn the citation. And after this, as part of our wrap-up, we'll also send you a citation guide that's found on My Rotary, but we'll make sure that you've got a PDF available to you so that you just have easy access to it. We hope that actually the organization itself and President-elect Holger hope that this makes this a lot more achievable. We've seen a trend in the past of clubs getting all the way up to one final component and then not being able to set up that component because of some limitation within their region. And we just didn't feel it was fair that so many clubs were getting one away from earning a citation, and then we had to sort of say, we're so sorry. So hopefully your club will take a look at this opportunity and work on achieving this. It's always nice to sort of have that boost as the year closes out. I do want to take a look at service activities because that will really drive the activity here on the service page. I'm going to go back a year just so that we can see some of the activity that my club has been doing, because right now it's a whole bunch of blanks. And I'll just kind of show you a little bit about this part of the tool. So I've gone back to 2019, 2020. You do have the opportunity to add a brand new service project or repeat one from the past. So a brand new project allows you to fill in some blanks, which is basically the project title, a summary or a quick description of the project, when it began and when it ended, whether that was one day or a whole week. You can mark whether or not the project was completed here. And then we're going to look at this in kind of 2 different ways. There's the first column here, which is projections, what you think you'll achieve as far as the number of members, what you, that's a lot of people, maybe 12, what you think that you'll be able to accomplish for the number of hours contributed. This particular box has been a little tricky for some people, and what we ask you to do here is multiply the length of the service activity itself by the number of people that are attending. So if 12 people are projected for this project, and I know it's going to be a 2-hour project or involve 2 people, or sorry, 2 hours of everyone's time, that would actually be a 24 hours worth of service done in this one particular project. Cash contributions, the valued good donations or in-kind donations, and then come back later during the course of the project, maybe right when it's finished. You could do this from a phone, or at the next time that you've come through the tool to make some updates, and then mark the achievements. Did you get your 12? Did they put in a collective 24 hours? Additional details down below will allow you to choose the category, which would be things like, was it a community project, an international project? Was it vocational? Did it involve young leaders? Any number of these things. Another item in here is the area of focus, or polio, or environment, or disaster response. And really, you could choose multiples. If you choose area of focus, you can actually focus in on the focus and say this was about disease prevention and treatment. You could select in this section here who your partners had been. And then the very key thing to do is to mark the project complete when it's done, and then hit save. And when you hit save, it puts it into this space here, the completed project space. The current projects is things that are things that we've set up as a sort of interim thing, and they're only existing in this column because we haven't marked it as complete. Once it is complete, you can also, and I'll show an example here, export this project into Rotary Showcase, which is another one of our online tools that, in my opinion, is more like a show and tell of projects that you've done. In that space, you can add videos, you can add photos, you can share with the rest of the Rotary world how you did it, and then some tips on how they too can do this in case another club or a district is interested in that type of project. In this space, like I mentioned, you can repeat a past service project. So if I was to click on this, it allows me to look back through time and then choose a project that had already existed, copy the project's information. So it gives us the project summary. It gives us like our previous totals. So we could use this to inform how many people we think we can get to be volunteers at this project, how many hours we think they could put forward, and so on. Once you have marked a project complete, it adjusts the counter at the bottom of the page as well. It gives you a summary of the service projects projected and completed, the number of hours, the number of hours completed, the contributions and in-kind donations. And then this feeds back into this goal center goal as well. So if I was to click on this number here, 7 achieved, should match what's happening in the projects completed section here. Now, a couple of people have mentioned this. Ed mentioned this a little bit earlier as well, and I kind of want to drive home why we believe it's important to put information into this tool, and then also the service and activities area. And the first reason is that we've found, and I think a number of people have found, that it's easier to achieve a goal if you've set a goal. It's easier to achieve something if you've set a goal. And so even if you come in and do some bare bones goal setting or some minimum goal setting, as long as you've done that type of activity and you can report back on that activity, it just sets up your successors and their successors for a little bit more success. It's also possible that you could come in and set a pretty lofty goal, like say you want to get to 100 members by the end of the Rotary year, even though you only have a tradition of going up to 50 or 40. This can help show in data that goal is either very achievable or wasn't. And it gives you a sense of what you could do the following year. Maybe 100 was too much. Maybe we could dial it back down to 60 or 25 or 15, whatever that goal happens to be. The other thing about this tool, and the reason that we really want to start capturing things in the service and activities area, is that for years we've been able to track what we've done as an organization for our eradication efforts for polio. We know when the project started, we know that we're still working on it 35 years later, and we know how much money has gone out, how many volunteers have gone out and been in the field. We have these stories, and we're able to tell those stories to other organizations like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and call upon them for partnerships. We don't have that same data, and we don't have those same stories for all of the other projects that are happening at the local levels. So we're aware that there are a lot of literacy projects. We're aware that there are a lot of water and sanitation projects. We just don't have it cataloged in a usable way or a manageable way. And so we're asking clubs to please consider putting them into this area. And it does sound a little selfish, and it does sound like Rotary is trying to mine this information for bigger partnership opportunities, and that's kind of true. But what we're also hoping is that at the local level, within your club or within your district, you would be able to take a look at this data and present it to any business or any organization that's looking to become more philanthropic. Yes, it's still very important to do what we've said before by telling your story as a club, make sure that you tug at the heartstrings as a club. But now we're saying that, or we're seeing the possibility that other people have caught onto that idea too, that a lot of people are telling their stories and saying, here's who we are and how we benefit our community. So we want to make sure that you've got an edge by saying, yes, this is who we are. And then here's the data that backs that up. And hopefully that will help some decisions in your favor. It might not work, but it might. Some other things that are found here in this sort of menu of are resources. So I'll click on this and you can see that it's broken up into different items here, general resources like how to navigate this tool. And we'll make sure that you have access to this as well after this presentation. Membership resources, resources for young leaders, service, and then foundation. And then we also have provided access to different reports as well. And this is broken up again into different categories: members, Rotary Foundation, giving, and service. And it's broken up into club level and then also district level. So you can get a little bit of a bigger picture of what's happening out amongst the rest of your clubs. A lot of these can be found out on My Rotary, but we kind of felt like it was nice to be able to present these to you here in this space, that as you're working on goals or focusing on those, you could come back in and have access to these right away. You do have access to see some of this information as well in this global view area, which allows you to basically zoom out to the world and see what's happening everywhere else. But you can drill down to the zone, you can drill down to the district, or even your own club group. So if you are a competitive person and you want to say, pay attention to the other clubs within your own club grouping and sort of say like, all right, we're getting our goals in and we're getting them recorded, this is a cool section of this tool for you. Something else that was mentioned and a piece of advice that I'd like to also offer, Carol earlier in her part of the presentation talked about coming in and doing a club assembly, checking on the goals that you've set for the year and making sure that you're staying on task with your strategies. She recommended 6 months. I recommend that this is a good starting point. Another good starting point might be once a quarter, or in the case of my club, we do this anytime a speaker cancels or we've got bad weather and some people couldn't make it. So this is something that you can very quickly throw up onto a TV or into a Zoom or other online meeting space and walk through with your club and make sure that people are seeing what is happening. Again, because we've made it so transparent, it's a little bit easier to stay on task in getting these accomplished. So that's kind of what we wanted to address. I know I went through them a little bit quickly. There was quite a bit to cover, but hopefully this gives you a taste of what's to come. It gives you a little bit of inspiration to go into this space with your club officers and gives you the opportunity to hit the ground running when July 1st gets here. I see that there are, I'm getting a private message from Kyle Haugen saying I need to be done. So I will go ahead and end it there, but I'll still address questions. Andres will be here as well to address questions in the chat box. And then again, at the end of the this whole evening, we'll still be here in case there is open forum time. And so with that, I think we should turn it over to
Ed.
Ed. All right.
Thank you, John. Andres, great job. What I was looking for. Thank you so much. I've got a real brief period thing right here, and just to talk about not setting goals. Next one. And not that one either. It's the next one. Here we go. Is your go-to person, is your, no, too far, is your assistant governor. And that is, there's 3 of them here this evening, Bev Driscoll and Mark Berger and Bill Wichter. And so they were in, you had one of them in your rooms as you all got together. And you have your own in your district or in your area, and they will be reaching out to you if the person you were in with was not yours. But they're the go-to person for any questions, any concerns, need a little inspiration. They can really help out there and connect you. Some of them have even been working within areas to help foster work in projects working together among the clubs, which has been really important too. Just wanted to briefly mention them and use them, and they're there to help, as we all are. And I think at this point we'll throw it over to Kyle, and he will be sharing with you about the Rotary Foundation.
Thanks, Ed. And good evening, everybody, and nice to see most of you, except for John, who called me out there as I was giving him a bad time. My role tonight is to talk a little bit about the Rotary Foundation, and in a few minutes, just sharing some points that maybe you can use with your club members, and also provide some ideas in terms of what to do in your club. And some of you maybe have heard some of the points here, but hopefully you gain something new out of this, because it is a little different than what we've done in the past. If you have any questions along the way, please let me know in the chat box, and I will do my best to answer those. So what I'm going to do here first is share my screen, and so you have that. And when a question that I've asked a lot throughout this year as Rotary Foundation team leader is, what do we do as Rotarians? And certainly we get asked that a lot. And it's often a difficult question to ask. In fact, I'm sure you've been asked that question and have probably asked it too. And it's difficult because we do so many different things as Rotarians. But you could say we make a difference, but how? And it's all of that comes off of that. But what I've come to kind of realize, and it's something that Rotary International has done with their partnership with the Institute for Economics and Peace, is to talk about we create peace. Now, if you say, well, peace is just simply the absence of war or violence, so we do a lot more than that. And I would say you're right. But if we look at it in that lens, it's negative peace. But if you look at the lens of positive peace, which is the fulfillment of all needs in a society, isn't that what we do as Rotarians? We make a difference by creating positive peace in our neighborhoods and around the world. And the Rotary Foundation helps us maximize our efforts. We do this through 6 areas of focus, from left to right: peace and conflict prevention and resolution, disease prevention and treatment, water and well, these are not in the same order as my slides, but it's peace and conflict resolution, disease prevention and treatment, basic education and literacy, water and sanitation, child and maternal health, and economic and community development. Now, when you think about all of those, don't they all just lead towards positive peace? When we're putting a toilet or a latrine in a community in the developing world, especially at schools, that's creating positive peace. How? In the developing world, oftentimes young ladies stop going to school when they start menstruating because there aren't clean bathroom facilities. So by putting that toilet or running water or a latrine at a school, we're providing safe facilities that those girls can use to continue to go to school, to continue to be educated, to be able to have a better life for themselves and their families. Hugely important in creating positive peace. Or when we provide medical facilities in communities. One of the partners that we have here in our district is Dr. Abul Shara, who is a member of the Bloomington Rotary Club, but he founded International Village Clinic and in India. When he started his clinic, women would actually walk into the fields to have their babies. Think about the success rate for both mom and baby coming out alive. By building facilities with Rotary dollars that give moms healthy places to be able to get checked during their pregnancy and when they're having their babies, certainly will increase the likelihood of survival and create positive peace in their lives. And eradicating polio, we'll talk about. That's such an important thing for all of us. But think about a world. In fact, the last time the Minnesota State Fair was canceled was because of a polio outbreak. And think about the people in 1988 when there was 350,000 cases of polio worldwide, how those people's lives and the lives of their families and the economic impact there was when there was that many people that were impacted by polio. Now we're down around 100 cases. We're creating positive peace in the lives of so many people. I could go on, but let's set a brief baseline here on how the Rotary Foundation works. You can contribute to the Rotary Foundation in a couple different areas. On the right is the endowment fund. Those funds are held in perpetuity, and only the investment earnings are used to help fund Rotary projects. The left, obviously, Polio Plus, which we could talk about for half an hour and mentioned it briefly. Those funds are used to support polio eradication. Some key funds are the annual fund, which are the dollars that come back to us in 3 years to be used in our district for grants. And how that works, as I just said, we give to the annual fund. The Rotary Foundation invests that money for 3 years and uses the earnings to pay the expenses. So the majority of those dollars come back to our clubs. We split that, then half of that money comes back to our district. The other half goes to the World Fund, which is controlled by the Rotary Foundation Board of Trustees, and that money is used for peace centers, things like global grant matches, contributions to Polio Plus, and recently the trustees moved $3 million from the World Fund to Rotary's Disaster Response Fund for grants related to COVID-19 response, which our district got a grant for $25,000. That was World Fund money. The other 50% I mentioned comes back to our district, and that becomes what's called district designated funds. We control that money and are able to use it how we see fit to do grant matches, to do global grant scholarships for people getting a master's degree that will help benefit the world. And we make some of the contributions to Polio Plus there as well. So that's how the Rotary Foundation works. And then there are two types of grants, which we'll go through real quickly. District grants, smaller grants, they're local, they can be anywhere in the world, in our backyard or halfway around the world. And you see we can match up to $3,000 per club, up to $12,000 total in our district. So it pays to partner. Global grants, a little bit larger, international in scope. A minimum has to be $10,000 by our clubs, which means a $35,000 minimum grant. It needs to be somewhere else in the world, and it needs a host club in that country. And one of those grants, or a global grant, needs to fit one of the areas of focus that we talked about earlier. And you have to attend a grants management seminar to sponsor a grant, which we're almost done with those. But if you haven't attended, if your club hasn't attended one, let us know. So that's very quick about the grant side of things. We have an issue right now in our district. And we're trying to create as much positive peace as we can around the world. But over the last several years, we've had a shortfall when it comes to how many dollars we have available for our grants. Because remember, the money we gave 3 years ago comes to fund the grants that we're going to do this next year. So we have a limited amount of funds. And the requests that we keep getting are more than the funds we have available. Now, we don't want to ask people to quit asking us for money, so we need to ask our members to give more. And we're asking members if the Rotary Foundation can be your charity of choice. And I'll give you 3 reasons why. Number 1, it's efficient and effective. We take great care of your money. The Rotary Foundation is among the top 2 or 3 charities in the United States when it comes to financial, just everything about it. Charity Navigator, the top 10 charities everybody's heard of, the Rotary Foundation's number 1. Why? Because we take great care of the money, we're transparent, and our expenses are low. It's the model that we do. Number 2, you have a say. All of us give money to a lot of organizations that when we give that money, we trust them to do the best thing for it. But with the Rotary Foundation, you actually have a say in where your money goes because of the grants that we do and how you can be involved in the processes along the way. What a great way to make sure your money's being put to the use you want it to. And certainly with 1.2 million Rotarians around the world, we can have a broad and significant impact in the lives of people throughout the world. And that's because we're an international organization. We have connections all over, and we have 1.2 million members all working together through their giving. How to give to the Rotary Foundation? There's 4 ways there right now. The best way is number 3, online through Rotary Direct, because if you send a check to the Rotary Foundation right now, those checks aren't being processed very quickly. So going online, like John showed you earlier through my Rotary, there's a way to give through your account, and you get credit almost instantly there. Easiest way to do it, and you can set up a recurring donation while you're there. As little as $10 a month can go to the Rotary Foundation. The last one, through estate planning, a great way to say, hey, once I'm gone, Rotary can have some of the money there. Also, considering how much to give. And we ask members to give in one of 3 ways. Number 1 is our Every Rotarian Every Year. Just give something, because then you're part of the team. Or $1 a day, which comes up to $365 a year. Certainly, I spend way worse money than $1 a day that could be going towards Rotary. And Paul Harris Society, which is $1,000 a year. Just, again, a great way to make the Rotary Foundation one of your charities of choice for about $20 a week. Different recognition opportunities. Paul Harris Fellowships, which are every $1,000 you give to the Rotary Foundation, you get a Paul Harris Fellowship, which you can get more than one. So don't stop at one. Paul Harris Society, I mentioned, that's $1,000 a year. Major donors, people that have given more than $10,000 to the Rotary Foundation get special recognition and opportunities. And the Bequest Society is when you put money in your will or estate. So I went through that very quickly, but I want to share a couple more things. And these are the top 10 things I would suggest for you to implement in your club to help you have foundation success. Number 1, identify a foundation champion. Don't do it just yourself as a club president. You have enough other things to do. But find a foundation champion that can work alongside you and is passionate about the Rotary Foundation, that can encourage people to give, that can educate people about the foundation, and implement that culture in your club with you. Number 2, walk the talk. You have to give. Like anything, if we're not doing it ourselves, how can we expect other people to do it? And I don't care how much you give, but as long as you give something to the Rotary Foundation, you'll be a better champion for the Rotary Foundation when you're encouraging your members to give. Number 3, participate in a district or global grant. That doesn't mean you have to sponsor a district or global grant. It means partner with another club if you don't want to sponsor one and contribute to their global grant or district grant. That way you can see where the dollars that we give to the Rotary Foundation are being put to use. Number 4, have a program for that grant. In number 3, that way, again, all of your club members are able to better understand the foundation and where those funds go and see how we're doing good in the world. Setting club giving goals. I think John talked about that quite a bit here, but you don't know where you're going, you can't figure out if you got to where you're going if you don't know where you're going. Set a club giving goal and work hard to reach that as a club and encourage your members to give so that you can reach that goal. And don't just set it where it's been in the past, but think about what is the right goal to have so we can raise more money so we can do more with the Rotary Foundation. Number 6, host a polio awareness event. World Polio Day is in October every year, but what a great way to at least bring awareness in the community. Not just raising funds or doing it within your club, but let the community help you raise funds and showcase the efforts we've done as Rotarians when it comes to eradicating polio. And let's promote ourselves a little bit. Number 7, we have a fund development team in our district that would be happy to come present to your club. I've often found that if you are trying to make your own presentation, your own club, half of it gets drowned out because they're sick of listening to you. We can come in from the outside, serve as somewhat of as an expert, and really help your club members understand the Rotary Foundation. It's all a part of educating and inspiring your members. Just asking them to give isn't enough, but telling them what the Rotary Foundation is, what it does, and the impact that we're having on people around the world, that's the key part of how we can get people to increase their giving. Recognizing club members, saying thank you, showcasing when they receive Paul Harris Fellows and when they give to the Rotary Foundation is hugely important. We want to be thanked. We want to feel special. And if we're not recognizing our club members and all they do, they're not going to feel special and they're not going to give as much. And you can't steal second base with your foot on first. You have to ask club members to give, because if you're not asking them to give, they're not going to. So remember to ask your club members to give. Now, it's not about the money or the recognition. It's about the positive piece we are creating in the lives of others. We grow local economies, teach kids to read, prevent disease, provide clean water, prevent mothers and babies from dying, and creating peace, both negative and positive. I'd ask you to help us create that peace and make the Rotary Foundation one of your charities of choice and be a champion in your club. If you don't give, please give something. If you give, please consider increasing your contribution, especially with the current situation we're in with COVID-19. Some of our members won't be able to give much. And if you have the resources to be able to give, please give more to help pick up the slack for the other people that are working as hard as they can to do other things in their lives and in their communities. Thanks for your partnership with the Rotary Foundation. Because of you, we can maximize our impact in our neighborhoods and around the world. Thank you. Ed?
Thank you, Kyle. We'll throw it over to Steve next. So Kathy, if you can bring up the slides.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. And we're headed towards the end. I've got 3 slides, and we'll go through them quickly. But before we start the slides, I want to really cut to the chase. And that is, if you need help with membership in your club, reach out to us. We are, the membership team is happy to come and join your team to do an assessment, to help in any way we can. So reach out. I'm the incoming chair. Greg Bartz is the current team lead. And we've got people who are experienced in membership who want to help. Go on to the next slide, if you would, Kathy. There we go. The membership is really 2 parts. We always think about membership and think about it as getting new members. We got to have more members, And what I'm going to suggest and what the team is suggesting is that really what we're talking about is retention of members and expansion of membership. And we can't really do one without the other. So we're going to start just briefly. And many of these things you've heard before. I'll go quickly through them. Membership retention is all about membership engagement. So if you've got members who aren't fully engaged with your club, you'll see a drop-off in membership. We recommend, as you've heard before, doing regular member and club surveys and then following up on those surveys. Don't do a survey if you don't intend to follow up. It just disappoints your members. So I would really recommend that you do surveys and membership engagement surveys every year in some fashion. You can use your own survey, use a survey that's on the district membership or district membership website. You could look at the RI resources, all good resources. Choose the one that you think will work best for your club. And then follow up and put a close date on that follow-up. Pick out 2 or 3 of the things to work on, let your members know you're going to work on them, and then close that off so you can then be ready to go on to the next time, the next year. That's very important. Make sure your activities, your service projects engage all your members. This doesn't mean every member every time, but it means that you really have to have engagement. Your members have to believe in your projects. They have to want to attend your activities and service projects. And far too often we see clubs that, well, we always have a book club or a book sale in the spring. We always have the wine tasting in the fall. Well, that might have been good when those events were put into place 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. But what do the new members think? What kind of activities and service projects do the new members want? That's what you really need to look at as you do your surveys to keep people involved. Got to get those new members. When you get new members, get them involved quickly. Many clubs have mentoring programs. White Bear Lake just instituted this past year a mentoring program. Is going very well. It has a number of benefits. Not only does it engage new members quickly and get them involved, but the mentor also, the more senior member, the current member who's serving as the mentor, has to really be involved and engaged. We have a challenge sometimes with our members using Club Runner. And so one of the things that the mentor has to do for the mentee is teach the mentee how to use our Club Runner. Well, that means that they have to know Club Runner. So we're kind of sneaking in the back door there, getting our more senior current members also engaged. Check the value against cost. We'll hear this again, and we hear this all the time with members. It's cost too much to join Rotary. I can't afford to join Rotary. What they're really saying is it's not valuable to me. It's not of value. The cost is greater than the value. So when you look at retaining members, always go back, and I always encourage clubs to go back on a regular basis. Don't assume that because you have members, they really get it. You may have members that are drifting away and you just don't know about it until you get the call or the email saying, I'm not going to be a part anymore. So always think of, when you hear the word cost too much to join your organization, really look at the subtext. I don't see the value in joining at that cost, for that amount. And also, we encourage clubs always to be planning ahead. Don't get into the rush of doing an activity and then the great letdown before you come up with your next activity. Always have something out there, especially in this COVID time. We need to have our current members looking forward to the future. And we encourage all clubs to really be thinking that way. Go ahead to the next slide, Kathy, please. The second part of membership is expansion, increasing our members. Again, I just ended with cost against value. That's so important. What can you provide a new person? Why should I join your club? What are you going to give me? What am I going to get out of it? For new members, for younger people, maybe that's leadership development. Maybe that's networking. We know that young people often join Rotary because of the networking opportunities. So how do you participate as a club in developing those networking opportunities? We also think membership is about service. We talk a lot about meetings and attendance at meetings, but really, it's service above self. It's not meeting at all cost. It's service above self. And so oftentimes the best way to get someone involved with Rotary is not to invite them for the first time to a meeting. It's to invite them to an activity, to a service opportunity. That way they get to know who you are and what you're all about. We encourage all clubs to reach out to those not traditionally part of Rotary, marginalized communities in your area. We all have people who have joined the community recently. Reach out to those folks. Special interest groups. We know that clubs now are starting special interest groups here in the Twin Cities. We have a veterans community club. There's an ecology club. There's an online club. All of those things are special interests. Maybe in your even a small community, there might be a subset that you can reach out to. Have Rotary join them, as Ed Merrick says. Not always you join us. You come to us and join Rotary. Have Rotary and look at all the grants that you've just heard about. We can bring those international resources into new groups in your community. Reach out to Rotaract members, former youth exchange participants, and their host parents. They know the value of Rotary. Sometimes it's difficult for people on the outside to understand the value of Rotary until they really get involved in it. So those folks who have had that experience, I think it's a good bet you can reach out to those and get a few people to join. a variety of opportunities. You'll hear this over and over, and I'm sure you have. Check out multiple meeting times, locations, meals or no meals. All these things were developed and useful in the past, but may not be useful as you go forward. So there again, a good check on that is doing a membership survey, finding out what your members like and don't like necessarily about your club, and then acting on those suggestions. And again, purposeful recruitment. We, for a long time, in my experience in Rotary, the pitch has been reach out to your neighbor, reach out to the person who sits at the desk next to you at work, reach out to that person over there. Be more thoughtful. Find Rotarians who don't know they're Rotarians. These are people who share the the values exhibited in the 4-way test, and you can tell them, you can see them. You meet them, they talk about what they're already working on or experiencing or the clubs they're part of. Guest speakers, all the time we have guest speakers at Whiteboro Lake, and you just know that this person ought to be a Rotarian. This person is a Rotarian, they just don't know it yet. So move in that direction, not the blanket coercing people to join us because we need new members. Focus on what can you Rotary bring this individual person. Next slide, Kathy. Just a word about membership in terms of we're all volunteers for this operation. And so you probably have seen this list before of how to care and feed volunteers. As leaders, always keep that in the back of your mind, that the folks that you're interacting with are all volunteers. It has to be fun. It has to be engaging. The individuals have to support it. The tasks must be manageable. They have to be clear. There has to be a good reason. And again, a good reason isn't, we've been doing this for 25 years, so we need to continue to do this. That's not a good reason anymore. Everything necessary to complete the task, adequate training, these are things that you probably, as leaders, already understand. We just want to bring them back up in the front, put them on the table again to have you look at them as you move forward this year. Have a good year as you take over your clubs. That's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. And we'll move right in with Sean and public image. You ready, Sean?
I am ready. You can go ahead. Next slide, Kathy. Do you have an active public image team who work together on projects? Do they meet every quarter? Do they practice good division of labor? Splitting up your website, newsletter, social media, brochure, events, presentations, news release activities. It is important to have a public image team, not to burn out one person in your club. Public image is a big part of your club to get the word out about what you're doing in your community and around the world. Search your club directory to see if you have any professions in public image, or ask your members if they're willing to help in any way. Next slide. Which media outlets are in your community? Which media outlets in your community are you on your influence wish list? And how can you win them over? Have you trained all your club leaders to think how, when, and which vehicle and audiences to share with? Let's make it autopilot to strategize and contact the public image team. Get to know your local journalists and news organizations. Ask for a friendly invitation to meet and discuss projects via phone call or Zoom meeting at this time. Understand their deadlines. For newspapers, typically it's 2 to 3 weeks. Magazines and radio is 30 to 90 days. Ask them who you should send releases to: publishers, program directors, features editors, sports editors. Depends on what you're promoting. You won't get coverage 100% of the time, but you certainly won't get any coverage if you do not ask. Next slide. Share. Keep an eye on Rotary International and district site for tie-in opportunities and share. Share on your own community pages, next door, Chamber of Commerce. Saturate your neighborhoods and involve your partners. Do you suggest your partners add in the Rotary branding in their outreach? Magnify your good news in social and traditional media. If you are working with a house of worship or a YMCA, provide your club logo. Don't expect them to find it on their own. They may find an old logo, and we do not want that. Next slide. The current Rotary logo was introduced in October of 2013, over 6 years ago. If your club is still using the old logo, please make sure you update it. You can do this in the brand center at my.rotary.org, and if you need help, please let me know. Please do a review of your website, social media, newsletters, and event media to make sure you're using the correct branding. And if you're not sure if it's correct, please contact me. I can help with that. It's easy to review all the free public image tools on brandcenter.rotary.org. Brand Center is a valuable tool for you. You can review the voice and visual identity guidelines, create your club logo, brochures, pamphlets, certificates, and newsletters, download online, print, outdoor, and radio ads, and download Rotary images and videos to use on your social media. People of Action photo tool at poaphotos.com helps you show our story, helps us articulate how we marshal together to connect to the world. It's perfect for social media posts in real time. There's a 5-minute tutorial at poa.photos/how-to. Make sure your photos include action. Next slide. As of today, we have not gotten word that the state fair has been canceled yet. So join the Rotary Blitz on Friday, September 4th. Consider canceling your club meeting that week and join us at the Great Minnesota Get Together. This is a unique multi-district event with District 5950, 5960, and 5580. We will have volunteer opportunities, be in the parade, and have a booth at Dan Patch Park. Make sure you wear your Rotary shirts. If your club has an event coming up, send the slide to us and we can distribute it to the other clubs. Especially in this time, we can go ahead and most clubs are doing Zoom meetings or some type of online meeting. They can share your event with, in their announcements. That's all I have. If you have any questions, actually, I do have one question that came up at NZ Pets is a club has an old blow-up logo or a blow-up sign with an old logo. For branding, we don't want you to go out and spend thousands of dollars to fix what you have. If you have an old blow-up sign, continue to use it, but when it breaks, make sure it's the new correct logo.
Thank you, Sean. And Kathy, if you want to throw up the next slide. Super. So something that at Kathy's suggestion, the district decided to do was to eliminate the 3-ring binder that was responsible for many hernia cases in the district. And so we've gotten rid of that. We've put all the documents online in the President's Toolbox, which you can find on the district website at rotary5960.org. It's got the different documents you'll need, list of district contacts, the district governor's visit schedule, which we'll get into in a minute. We've also included the resource list that I promised you at PETS Part 1 back in February. It's a living document. We just updated it once again, and it'll be updated from time to time as needed, adding new links on there that if you want to find something, you can go to that document, click on the link, and it's taking you right there. In addition, now we've included the Living Center catalog, which I believe I sent out to each of you already, which is a PDF that the Learning Center came up with at RI that has links to all the courses that they offer. And it's a real slick way to get there quickly. You click on the link, it takes you there, you log in with your email and your password into the Rotary International website, and you're taken right there and you're good to go. So it's a great way to do it. Information there on Sean's People of Action photo editor. We will have district training assembly videos there. We've got one on entering the Learning Center, for example, already there, and there'll be more as we go through the year and we find that there's more needed up there. Next slide, Kathy, please. Is in with the district governor visits. My wife, Sue, has been emailing each of you with a proposed date. We've heard from just under 50% of the clubs, and so we've got 50% of them, or nearly 50% confirmed so far. For the foreseeable future, they're going to be virtual visits. So you're going to get me as you see me now, virtually. My daughter is ill once more with cancer. She was treated for it last summer, and it's come back with a vengeance. So we've co-joined the two homes. So my wife is over there supporting her right now and bouncing back between the two homes. So I want to stay COVID-free so I can be visiting and we can continue to support her through this time. So count on it being a virtual visit this year. Next slide, Kathy. Is June 23rd is tentatively the virtual installation. The RI convention, which was supposed to be earlier in June, has been called off, but they are working to make it a virtual one, the 20th through the 26th. So watch, there'll be emails coming out on that. It's free. You can listen to the speakers and other activities they're going to have going on there. It's during the week that we had set up for a board meeting for the district as well as the installation. But both of those were going to probably be virtual anyway, so they can be easily moved, and will probably get moved, shoved back a week into the week of the 30th. So there'll be information on the district website, and there'll be emails, of course, for that. The State Fair Blitz that Sean talked about is still tentatively on. District midterm, January 30th. If we're able to meet in person by then, be at Hamlin University. And then the Joint District Conference of Clubs in 2021, if we're meeting together, April 23rd at the McNamara Center of U of M. That'll be with District 5950. So the two districts, we do this from about every 4 years or so. We're due. I actually grew up in Rotary over in 5950. I was a member of a couple of clubs over there, and so was very interested in having a joint conference, and we're shooting for that. Next slide, Kathy. And we'll open it up to any questions, so we can probably go to the gallery view. And unmute everybody. Anybody have any questions? Thank you so much for your patience. I know this was kind of a long Zoom.
I have a question for Steve about membership. As we go into this extended period of online meetings, do you have any ways or thoughts about how to engage people who aren't showing up at the online meetings and getting them involved in maybe something else, or getting them more comfortable with the Zoom format? Have you run into anybody who's been doing anything successfully with that?
Well, not yet. I think people are concerned. Our membership team from White Bear Lake met this morning and agreed that we would meet again in 2 weeks when we get the monthly membership report to find out who hasn't been joining us. Our online is doing pretty well. We're off probably about 8 or 10 people, but we don't really know why. So we're assigning our members of our membership team to phone those individuals, find out what's going on. So I can recommend that. Hopefully that'll do some good. We're not really sure. It looks like Vicki has a suggestion.
I just have a thought. We have some older people in the club that I think the Zoom is beyond it. Like they don't even have internet in their home. So our oldest member, I'm going to be three-way calling him in on our meeting on Thursday. Maybe in the future his daughter can get him in front of a computer, but we're going to try that and see if just his listening in helps him feel like he's participating. I've also created a bit of a list, and we, like you suggested, are going to be calling these members and saying, we haven't seen you on the call. Is this something you need help with technology-wise or what it is? Also, one of the things that our club is doing, since we're continuing to pay dues and part of that goes towards our lunch, every week we give $500 to the person we would be catering from, so she gets her regular income, but then another $500 we're giving to the Community Action Food Shelf, and we're going to be looking at doing other donations in town, maybe 3 or 4 other organizations. So I too am wondering, going forward, it sounds like RI is not going to do any more meetings together for the rest of the year, is what I've heard. And I think with a large club like ours, I think social distancing at a club meeting would be not possible at all. And in the sense of keeping everybody safe, I'm starting to think that at least through the rest of the year, we're going to be on Zoom. Not to declare that publicly yet, but just in my thinking of being president.
I think the idea about getting people to phone in who don't have Zoom capability is a great idea. I'd be interested to know how that goes. I encourage you during those meetings once in a while to reach out to that person, have your president, mention that there are folks listening in. I think that, again, as I said earlier, for some reason, Rotary has become, in my opinion, all about meetings, all about speakers, all about lunches. It's all about service. There are service opportunities we're finding in White Bear Lake that we can do and have social distancing. We're doing a couple of blood drives. And they can be done. Certainly the Red Cross knows how to do that. We're doing a couple of road cleanups. There are other activities. There might be activities you can schedule. So, keep your members involved in activities. Mm-hmm. If we know we can't get them, can't get back to regular face-to-face meetings.
Something else that the Northfield Club did, Vicky's club did, as they were preparing for the Zoom meeting, if you haven't jumped into this format yet, they got some younger folks, a little bit more adept technologically, to identify what platform they were on, what devices they were using, and then match them up with people with similar devices to kind of help them understand how to navigate through and do some sort of socially distanced one-on-one, so that they'd be, work through that and would be able to log into the meeting. And I think that's worked out pretty well for you.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah,